Kelly, we're about 3 minutes after. I don't see too many more people popping in.
No, thanks for that, Brent. I'm going to go ahead and get us set up here. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. As a kind of a start before we get into what we're here for, if you could mute your mic or turn off your camera, that makes it the easiest. I'm going to also turn off our camera here just so that it's just the only thing you've got really looking on your screen is the PowerPoint that we're going to cover today. If you have questions or feedback, you can type those into the chat, and we will be recording and posting the webinar today to our website. We do have 2 more of these happening this week, so if you or somebody within your organization is interested in making it but wasn't able to, they could either watch it on the website or they could join us at 7 a.m. Pacific on Friday, the 14th, or 5 p.m. Pacific on Monday, the 17th. There we go. So for those of you that are not as familiar with Teams, you can see here there's a toolbar that exists in that program related to the chat and to the camera and where the mic is located. So hopefully that is a helpful, usable tool for you. I do have staff on the line that are going to help navigate both the chat and any other concerns that come up. I can't see those. All I can see is the big webinar at this point. So I want to start by thanking everybody for coming. So this is the first of 3 webinars to cover the proposals for fertilizer and pesticide registration fee changes at the Washington State Department of Agriculture. These are proposals for the 2027 legislative session. There's some timelines in the slides that I'll go through here. I'm going to run us through this slide deck. My name is Kelly McLain. I'm a pesticide, I was a pesticide specialist at WSDA for about 10 years. I've been in legislative affairs for the last 10 years, and I'm the assistant director for the Agricultural Environmental Services Division at WSDA. So I wear a lot of hats, both as a policy advisor as well as the head of the division that does both pesticide and fertilizer registrations, along with a whole lot of other stuff. So I'm happy to have you here today. We're going to walk through all of this. We are looking for as much feedback as possible. There is a QR code at the end of this that will guide you to our website that has more information about the changes and the proposals. It also has a link to surveys for each of the different fee increases and packages that are looking for movement in the legislative session in 2027. So feel free to take that survey and provide us feedback if that feels like a better format to do that in. We would love for you to provide your feedback, good, bad, or the other, any way you can. So, and that includes reaching out to myself or other staff. So what we're going to cover today is we're going to cover how our funds are allocated and what we use them for. Some of the accomplishments we've had since our last fee increases went into place and some of the looming insolvency problems, what it means for fee payers. Many of you who are on the call pay these registration fees, and the broader Washington community, and then what we're hoping to ask you for both now and in the future and through legislative session in 2027. Hold on just a second. I'm going to close the door of the room that we're in just so we don't bother the lab staff. We are here in Yakima today. So we're going to start with what our work looks like. So pesticide and fertilizer work in Washington is pretty complex. I think most of you are aware. We're 3rd in specialty crop production in the country. We're 2nd in issuance of specialty and complex registrations. We are 3rd nationally for ag labor and workforce needs because of the number of fruit and vegetable crops that require hand harvesting. And then our fertilizer program specifically isn't federally mandated. It runs under state-specific rules and laws. And those include updates and requirements around heavy metals and environmental protections. Regionally, we are very similar in cropping systems at times to our Washington or to our Idaho and our Oregon counterparts. But, we are much larger in population and in workforce needs. And the proposal we've got in front of you today for pesticides and fertilizers is meant to keep our fees in line with the industry demand and what we provide currently in staffing, resources, and support for the agricultural industry. So we're going to talk about how we use the fees. I think this is a really important part of the conversation because I think WSDA as a whole is a leader as a state agency where I think we're a leader in how we spend our money. We spend our money on the things that are specific to the registration fees we gather. So pesticides and fertilizer registration fees come into the agency, and along with tonnage in the fertilizer space, pay for compliance. So all those investigations, inspections, technical assistance, environmental product sampling, dealing with unlabeled or mislabeled products, those kinds of things, that all happens. Online sales, it happens with our compliance services. Our registration team is focused on technical and scientific chemical review and customer service and compliance with the statute and the rules. Our technical services and education program is a nationally recognized program for worker protection standards, for pesticide handlers, for farm workers and farm managers. And we offer bilingual pesticide safety training. The division administration support is a small piece of what these funds pay for, but it's important as we battle ongoing concerns and conversations around complex topics about pesticides or fertilizers, or Endangered Species Act or clean water issues. We provide that support around policy, regulatory, legislative affairs, outreach, and program issues. And then a small portion of our money pays for those agency operations that are required of any similar size business for IT, human resources, comms, admin regs, and central services. So that's how we use the fees. There are no instances where registration fees are paid to this division and go to anything other than the 5 categories that are on this list. So that is what the money comes in for. That is what the money is spent on. That money doesn't get diverted anyplace else. It's in an isolated, what we call an ag local account, and gets used specifically for those resources requested and services provided to the industry. So in 2021, we completed 2 fee increases, and one of them for fertilizer specifically was not about adding resources or staff. It was about solvency. So that program had not had a fee increase in almost 20 years, and they were insolvent, and they needed a fee increase. I feel like 20 years in today's world is amazing, and it's incredible that we were able to actually make it that long. We did add staffing resources in the pesticide space in 2021. That was a major plus up on the program. In the compliance space, in the training space, the reason for that was that pesticides and fertilizers have been under additional scrutiny. The advent of the internet has given a lot of people access to a lot of information, some of it correct, some of it incorrect. And so we needed more staffing resources on the ground to be able to support that. And it has meant that the community gets more access to skilled technical expertise and resources. It means that our online systems that we've brought online around payment and around submittal of information and around meeting compliance requirements has increased our efficiency. It means we provide better customer service, more transparency, faster response times. And then in the compliance space, it's been lights out. Some of those resources have gone to just absolutely changing the landscape for reducing the competitive advantage for unlabeled products or unregistered products. Our compliance staff are able to do more inspections, provide better coverage across a state of 8 million people. We're reaching over 5,000 farm workers per year. Actually, last year we issued 7,000 cards to farm workers that have been trained to meet the worker protection standards. And it's also allowed us to beef up our engagement directly with the regulated industry through the Fertilizer Advisory Committee and the Pesticide Advisory Board, and partner with our state agency partners that are also active in these spaces and make sure we're solutions oriented and focused on the issues at hand. So in pesticides in 2021, we went from $195 a year to $325 a year. And when we did that, we added staff, as I said, we added new data systems with a public search portal that allows you to look at information and get information about the products that are currently registered in Washington. We did expect it to cover 5 to 7 years. Efficiencies from that technology and the strategic hiring has carried us to now, and I'll get into a little bit of how many things outside of our control of influence. I'm actually amazed that we've made it to that. We're at the 6-year mark now. I'm exceptionally impressed once I got data on some of the other things outside of our control that have been impacting our overall ability to stay solvent. And here's what those look like. So since those fee increases in 2021, we've kept our agency staffing numbers and overhead static. We have not made changes in those spaces. We have had legislatively mandated changes and cost increases in the fleet costs. So we don't, the state has a fleet that we have to lease cars from. So that's had a substantial increase in impact. Our IT services that have been mandated by the legislature have increased our costs dramatically. Lab services, I think most people know post-COVID, a lot of those lab services costs have come from that space where companies went offline, stopped producing materials. Then when they came back online, the cost to produce those materials have gone way up. We have a 37% healthcare premium increase for the employer side, and then our general wage increases over the last 6 years are at 18.25%. So I'm going to start by saying we are not planning to fund, build, or expand the programs with this. We are just looking to cover the costs of the existing programs we've built and maintaining the technology we have. I think that's an important note. We're not looking to add additional program costs to this. It is just the things I showed before, and it's covering some of these costs that have just been really way outside of our control. So what we did in 2021 for pesticides is pretty dramatic, in my opinion. We built a registration data system and an online licensing data system. Both of those allow for online portals, online testing modules in the licensing space, electronic payments, traceable communications, public search for all of that data information. We're also working on a compliance data system, which will save us a lot of money because we're using the existing registration platform that's similar to what we've done in the fertilizer space. Is we built our compliance system off of our registration system to keep the cost down. So we added additional staff in registration, in compliance, in training and education, and then some proactive support in the policy, education, outreach, and regulatory space. Those have allowed us to finish things like the data system builds, the launching new processes for efficiency. Our compliance staff, there's more of them. We can do drift stops, have faster response time, have more technical assistance on the ground. Again, we have better access to our training modules. Our Spanish language trainings are booked out at least a year, if not 2 years in advance. We're able to use real-time investigation data to build new training modules. That's been fantastic. And then in that policy and proactive support space, we're one of the top commenters nationally on issues that face Washington producers specifically related to Endangered Species Act, EPA public comment periods on Clean Water Act guidance on the fungicide, rodenticide, insecticides, and herbicide strategies, the vulnerable species pilot, all of those kinds of things. And then pesticides continue to come under intense scrutiny at the legislature. Even this last session, we had 4 pesticide-specific bills come forward. So we're doing a lot of work in that space to educate, inform, and help people better understand what it means for Washington State if they take actions. So the plan for pesticide fees in the legislative session 2027, we need to address increased federal and state demands. The federal government has cut funding to EPA by $55 million in the last 2 years. That has increased the amount of time to get a response from EPA. In some cases, it's shifted that work from the federal government to the state government to get the answers. Our costs have increased as we reported to you, and there have been some mandated changes we just had no control over. So our goals here are not to fund, build, or expand. We are recommended to have a fund balance of somewhere between 3 and 6 months of operating resources. Right now, we operate traditionally at about 1 month. So the goal is to continue providing current program services and stay solvent beyond 2027. We're not looking to expand the programs. So what does this mean? I told you that the fee currently is $325 a year. We are proposing to increase the fee to $500 per year on November 1st of 2027, so a year and a half or so now. Sorry, what was that, Brad? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and continue on here. So we were planning to go from $325 a year to $500 a year for solvency. What we're also requesting for the first time ever in the pesticide space is adding fee authority in rule for up to $650 per year. So what that means is that the fee stays in statute, but rule-based fee changes would allow us to work more closely with industry, aligning our resources to their needs. So it would be at 500. The goal would be that if something changes or if something happens or if we would work directly until we get up to that 650, and then we would have to go back to the legislature. So give us a little bit of bandwidth to work on things that may come our way and maybe outside of our control. Our goal over time is to actually identify whether or not our efficiencies allow us to reduce fees within the proposed framework. So while 500 is the number, if we add the authority in rule, we would be able to be more nimble. And it would give us some space to be more responsive in that venue. In the fertilizer proposal overview, we're doing a couple of different things. So fee changes are part of it, but we have had a lot of things asked of us by the fertilizer industry. And so we are proposing to do some changes related to heavy metals. We're proposing to add a new category of registered products with agricultural amendments to level the competition and playing field. We are looking to move those fees in their entirety to rule so that we can work to raise or lower and reduce burden and increase community involvement in the fee setting for that program. And the fee changes that are proposed there are to remove all registrations and renewals to $200 a biennium. Right now, first 2 years of registration is $150 and renewals are $120. So we'd be going from that $150 or $120, depending on where you're at in the part of in your life, the life cycle of your registration, to $200 flat a biennium. The reason how we came up with these things were specific concerns that were raised by the industry to us. One of those was leveling the playing field. There are agricultural amendments on the landscape right now. We're one of only a handful of states that doesn't register agricultural amendments. They would become registered products under this. They would have registration and renewal requirements, including the heavy metals testing. They'd be subject to compliance activities and enforcement and would allow us to go after products that are either mislabeled, adulterated, or are being sold online without a dealer manager and are currently kind of available to undercut the regulated industry. So that is a big part of our goal in leveling the playing field, adding ag amendments. Transparency in the heavy metal requirements, we've had some issues. Our previous statute language is woefully out of date as it relates to the national standards for heavy metals requirements. So we would codify those heavy metal requirements directly in the statute. That'll allow us to add clarity, increase transparency, and really, on the whole, improve the registration experience for our registrants. It'll be more clear cut. It'll be ideally, it will reduce registration delays. And part of that fee increase also includes maintaining the use of the new registration data system, which is called Walter. We continue to use that system to streamline registration and compliance activities as an agency. Really proud of that system and what it provides, including the online public searchable tools. We've been told repeatedly that having technical assistance to support both the smallest and the largest companies is valuable. And so our goals are to retain and train the technical registration and compliance staff we have on the landscape. A partnered response to change is really met by moving our fees in statute into rule, because it allows us the authority to work directly with industry. And I know I can just imagine the eye rolling happening on the webinar as it relates to people saying that government agencies never reduce fees. WSDA, that is not true. We actually do have programs where if their fund balance becomes high enough, they reduce their fees using the in-rule authority around those fees. They've been able to move them up and down. Our fruit and vegetable program is an example of that. I'd like to have the opportunity to do that. I think we could absolutely do that, especially adding ag amendments as a new registered category, turning our compliance team loose to get those ag amendments registered. Would mean, I think, likely that we would see these fees that were initially setting at $200 a biennium be able to drop within the first couple of years. So, as I said, insolvency, we will not be solvent next year. Both the pesticide and fertilizer programs will go into the negative. We're not allowed to run as negative. As you can imagine, we still have to pay our staff and pay for our services. And so we do need to raise those fees so that we can maintain the services at the level we're currently providing them. So this is a phased in approach for fertilizer. So what we're proposing is July 1st of 2027. Any new registrations would be and statute changes would go into effect. But the what that would mean is that the new heavy metals streamlined rules in statute would be in effect on July 1st. It means that the fees in the future would move to rule-based adjustments, and that the ag amendments, adulterated and mislabeled products, would all be going into effect on July 1st of 2027. So if you currently don't register a product and you needed to register one on July 28th of next year, you would pay the $200 per biennium. If you're in your renewal cycle that comes in July of 2027, you would be paying your $120. So the renewals wouldn't increase to $200 until January 1st. So the first renewal cycle where those would go up would be the January or the 2028 to 2030 2-year period, and then the 2029, 2031 biennium would be at 200. And then our goal would be to reduce after one cycle of both renewals in that space. And as I mentioned, our goal is not to build a fund balance. It is just to stay solvent. So I'm just going to dig deep into that, right? We can be more nimble and gain the ability to reduce fees if registration numbers increase. We would expect that with ag amendments being added to the plate. If you're interested in participating in the fertilizer conversation more, we are going to be providing more of those numbers throughout the fall. Industry needs can be better aligned with the resources and more easily met through our partnership. It does allow us to improve. Statute changes haven't been made in this statute for almost 30 years. We are out of date. We need to help the industry meet its market competition. We need to get those keep the fees down, and we need to make sure that the heavy metal standards stay clear and concise, easily implementable both by the registrant as well as by the agency, so that registrations can move through the process more rapidly. If you're a fee payer on this call, what that means for you is that provides consistent and stable registration services. If the fee increase goes through, that includes the online applications, the renewals, the application tracking, the online portal for payments, all of those things. It's consistent compliance and regulatory support. That means you call or you send an email and you get a response relatively rapidly. I think we pride ourselves on being really, really responsive to the community that we serve. It adds increased transparency and efficiency, and it allows us to provide communication and legislative technical assistance on complex and emerging topics. There's no shortage of those in the pesticide and fertilizer space. It is really important to us that the legislature or the federal government have the right information about the impacts of decisions they're considering before they move forward with them. So those can be right sized for Washington producers. Now, if you're a member of the community and you're listening in today, what we believe that this does for you is that it provides accurate and updated access to product labels and what products are registered. It provides readily available and consistent compliance support for end users, partner organizations. We believe that because of the work that we do in our pesticide program, it continues to add that access. It continues to provide access to educational worker protection standard training programs in both English and Spanish that are provided year after year. Our consumer protection benefits that come from removing mislabeled, unregistered, or adulterated products from the marketplace as quickly as possible. It provides environmental protection from heavy metals contamination or concerns around groundwater or surface water contamination in either the pesticide or the fertilizer space. And it allows us to provide those robust technical assistance, community engagement, and outreach on complex topics, whether you're a farmer or you're a homeowner. The goal is that we are available to you to provide the resources and the expertise that we have in this space. So our request and commitment to you is that WSDA will continue to provide this nationally recognized customer support, technical and policy assistance, consistent and reliable compliance with the law. Without these fee increases, as I mentioned, we will be insolvent. Both of our programs, both fertilizer and pesticide registration programs, will be in the negative. We will have to reduce staffing, which means we would have timelines that increase, response times would need to increase. Our policy, regulatory, and technical support for both the fee payers and broader community would have to be reduced. So our ask of you all today, as you hear about this information, as you digest it over the coming days and weeks, is that when we go to legislative session in 2027, we're hoping that organizations can stand at least neutral on the fee increase, but supportive of the programs that those fees support. And so we know that that is a lot to ask. We know that agriculture right now is under intense pressure in Washington state. It is probably the hardest it's ever been to be an agricultural entity or provider of agricultural services. We are cognizant of that, and asking for a fee increase right now is not something that we love doing. To be fair, we're not in it to build a fund balance. We're not in it to support other programs. We're in it just to provide you the consistent services and the high level of customer service that we've provided year after year, and the programs that we've built with your support in the past. And we'd like to continue to provide those to you going forward. So as I said, no one likes a fee increase. We don't even like asking for a fee increase, but we are hoping that you're supportive of the programs maintained by those fees. And if you're not, we'd love to know as well. We love constructive feedback and criticism of things that we could be doing better. But we're hoping that when it comes around to legislative session, that you would at least consider being neutral on the fee increase, which is one of the options. And with that, the QR code on this page is the fee change webpage. As I mentioned, there's a survey there for pesticide and fertilizer partners. Please feel free to fill out the survey. We'd love as much information as possible about the good, the bad, and the other in this space. I'm the direct point of contact here as the head of the division and the policy lead for the division. I'd love to hear from you if you have broader concerns or things you'd like us to take into consideration. Please reach out. That is absolutely the priority for us, is to hear your feedback. We only know what we know in this moment, and we need feedback from you all to make this better, evaluate whether we've done this with the least amount of impact that we possibly could. Those are all parts of this. So with that, I am going to close this out. I'm going to continue to share this screen for a few more minutes. And Delina, Savannah, somebody, if you guys want to let me know if there's information in the chat or questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but I want people to have access to the QR code. So I'm just going to leave this up. I just can't see anything.
Yeah, we've got a couple of questions, and I can start just reading those out and then get what answers we can give to them as well. So first question, Kelly, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Does this include 25B products as well?
It does. So currently all of our products, every single product that's registered by the state of Washington is treated the exact same way. There is no differentiation between a Section 3 labeled product or a 25B. So yes, it does currently include 25Bs.
Yeah, and just 25Bs being minimum risk pesticides for everyone in the webinar. The next question is, this seems pretty heavy on ag products. What about industry that does not have any ag products? What will this increase mean to them? How will they see an impact?
That's a really great question, Kelly. Thank you for asking it. So in my mind, the benefit to, and I'll be honest, our fees paid for in the pesticide space make up, 50 or so % of those, both in pesticides and probably actually in fertilizers, are direct to homeowner products. So they're considered, home and garden products under our registration categorization. And I think what it means to them is some of those maybe more nuanced things for the community. I would like to say, I think we provide a really excellent level of service to those same home and garden product registrants when it comes to the online portal, the online payment system, access to your registration specialist, an online portal for public access and information, support of your products when they come up for consideration or concern in the legislature through the policy space, through federal decision-making or changes around those home and garden products. And then what it means from a community of impact perspective across the state is really focused on how do we make sure I would say in Western Washington specifically, for example, our compliance staff spend a lot of their time on the ground with homeowners. We spend a lot of time with master gardeners organizations. We spend a lot of time with the state legislature in urban areas talking about what and how these products are regulated and how they're registered and how the the label is the law and the protections that are afforded to us through the testing that goes into the registration of the product. So I would say in that home and garden space, that non-ag space, I think that our programs are already exceptionally supportive of those registrants and the work that they do to get those products out to the market. But if you have additional feedback on things we could be doing better or differently in that space or concerns, I would love to hear them. So, please feel free, whether it's through the survey or through a direct email to me, to reach out and share some of your concerns. I know I have briefed leadership within the Household and Consumer Products Association around this proposal. So has Brent Perry, the Registration Program Services Manager. So we want to continue to do that. And then Kimberly, I see your question about agricultural amendments. That definition we will be posting on that fee change webpage. We've been waiting for final review by our attorneys, and I just got it back late yesterday while we were getting ready for this webinar. So the statute change proposal, the language changes actually in the law, we will share out with everyone. That same distribution list that you found out about this series of webinars. We will send that same list of people, both through the pesticide and the fertilizer registration space and the gov delivery space, the link to this page, to go back to this page and look at the language that's proposed. I will say this, we have a lot of time to work on both the definitions and the language going forward. The reason these meetings are happening right now, when you were all very busy at your companies doing all sorts of different types of work, whether you're ag or non-ag, is we have a requirement as a cabinet agency to submit our proposal to the legislature, to the governor's office first. So our proposal for these fee changes and statute changes go to the governor's office in September. That does not stop the clock on us doing all of this work with you all. So the first date that we could even possibly drop a bill in the legislature on these topics is in January, first full week of January 2027. So we've got lots and lots of time to continue to work with you all to refine this. This is just kind of to lead us off in the right direction, ideally, to get feedback right now. But it's not that we're not closing that door. So the door is open for the next 5 or 6 months and throughout the entire 105-day legislative process. Hopefully we can address most of the concerns or comments in advance of that, especially if it involves legislative language changes in the bill or definition changes. So we'll get those out to you. We're working hard. We'll get those posted this week. So as soon as we get that definition posted, the new language posted, you all can see that and let us know what you think and if you've got concerns. And I'm happy for any of my other staff on the call if you wanted to pipe in on that, but I think I'd like to let the language speak for itself. So rather than me relaying to you what's in that that proposal, I'd rather that you got to see it and chew on it and get us feedback that way. Are there any other questions today that we can help to answer? If there's not, that's okay. I mean, this is, like I said, this is meant to be the introduction to what we're talking about doing. We want as much feedback as you can possibly give us, and it doesn't have to be positive or neutral. If it's negative, that's okay. We also want that. And so I'm hoping that you'll take advantage of the QR code, the fee change webpage. I'm hoping you'll take a look at doing that survey or reaching out to us directly. Anything that you provide us information-wise or concern-wise becomes part of the public record. So, we welcome that as part of this. The only way we can make this better is through direct input from you all. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing this screen. I'll go back to the main meeting, and if there's nothing else from anyone on the call or in the chat, then you all are welcome to have some of your time back today. Thank you so much for joining us. And as I said, this will be posted online. If you want to share it out with your companies or your organizations, please feel free.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.